Welcome to CyberMAYnia, cyber talks with the brightest minds in cybersecurity. Discussing risks, AI, emerging threats, workforce challenges, and more. With your host, May Brooks.
Hello and welcome to another episode of CyberMAYnia. With me today is Rainer Rehm. Rainer, how are you today?
Cool, it's just early in the morning and I'm just having my first cup of coffee. Everything's good.
Yeah, first cup of coffee I think is the most important cup of coffee. I do think so.
This is the one biggest problem, running out of coffee. This is really,
yeah,
I have a big one, you
bad.
see.
We have
and yes, blue is my color.
I can see that. So as you know, we always start these conversations in the same way with you telling us a little bit about you, yourself, and your crazy story in cybersecurity.
My crazy story. That is a potentially interesting thing. So let's start with the first thing. So I get basically into cybersecurity more than 25 years ago. Pretty much 30 years ago. I'm old. So nevertheless, because something broke and I was responsible for that product at that time, and so I figured out that something was wrong at that thing, and when I learned how easy it is to actually break a network protocol at that time, I figured, oh my God, if someone else found out, he would potentially have broken our product, and then that's how I started into cybersecurity. And then I worked for different companies, different sizes, different industries, the last 25 years, and I worked up the OSI layer more or less from really networking layer over to VPNing into application protocols and application protection. Then I stepped over to the eighth layer, as I used to call it, which is people, budget, and policies, becoming a CISO 10 years, 15 years ago. And ever since been there doing risk management, security awareness, making sure that all the processes are thought with security in mind.
Fantastic. And you do a lot of things.
That's a weird story.
Yeah. And there are a lot of other things that you do that you didn't mention, from education to leading the community globally. So I would love if you can tell a little bit about that as well.
Sure. So after I done my CISSP in 2006, I guess, we figured that we should have a kind of a representation of the members, and we started to develop the concept of a chapter together with IEC2. IEC squared at that time.
At the time, yeah.
And so this was when we started the chapter program in IEC2. A little bit similar to the chapter concept that ISACA has developed, but we were independent, or we tried to be independent from that. So regarding from starting point, it was a kind of a liability issue back then. And now I'm leading the German chapter and a lot of other chapter initiatives within IEC2 since 2010 when we started that. So I'm happy to be one of the first chapters in the world. So the Swiss chapter was a little bit earlier because it was easier to set up the organization there. But yeah, so basically I'm chapter number 2, but nonetheless, I'm still happy to doing that and also training and running an OTP and official training partnership with IEC2. So yeah, training for CISSP, CCSP, CSLP, and all that.
That's amazing. And in full disclosure, I think we first met like 10 years ago, maybe even a little bit more, back in the day when I was thinking about starting the Israeli chapter. And yes. I think it was people in the UK office that connected us when we were both, I think, in London or in the Netherlands. I don't remember.
No, it wasn't London.
Yeah, and I remember sort of trying to milk you for everything you know about running a chapter and learning so much. And you've been such an important mentor for me in that regard. And I was so happy last week, was it last week or 2 weeks ago?
It was last week,
last week. We met in Munich. We had, IC2 had a board meeting in Munich, and we had a member reception, and you created a whole day of it for the chapter, which was
Yep.
amazing. You had dozens of people there. How many people attended?
It was
It's
about 100.
amazing. It was amazing. I can tell you that I've been to many chapter events around the world because of my role in the board, and I've been chapter liaison for the last 2 years. So, and I'm very active in chapters, and
Yep.
it was such a pleasure meeting so many members and seeing how much value they get from this
Yeah. The
initiative,
feedback
which
was
is
amazing.
it was absolutely amazing. So I have to kudos to you for running it for so long. I know only people who ran such meetups and things know what it takes, because we were all volunteers. Even the board members of IC2, we were all volunteers. We spend
Yep.
a lot of our time working with this organization. And I want to thank you here for
Thank
this. So let's talk a little bit about cybersecurity. Oh, you know what? Let's start with a chapter. Usually I end with a chapter. Let's start with a chapter. What sort of drove you? There was no chapter program for ISC2, and I know that you're also holding ISACA certifications as well. What led you to start the conversation with ISC2? Again, we didn't have a chapter
Yeah.
program at the time.
So the most driving or thriving point was making sure that we can establish a communication back into the IEC2 and bring something back to the community as a membership. You know, when you I just realized that I learned a lot from people around me, and I wanted to give back to the people that are coming up, and making sure that they have a good experience within the whole chapter, and not the chapter, with the whole membership of IEC2 at that point. So I thought we need to have that um, channeling of the member opinion back to the organization, because if you know some people, of course you can talk to your board members, etc., and but this is just a, how should I say, this is just a one-to-one communication. And now with the chapter you establish a kind of a multiple people over the chapter leaders into the board. So it is a difference, I think, even from a board perspective, when you get an opinion, a kind of an issue reported from a Rainer, and differently if you get that reported from Rainer as the chapter lead that is responsible for, let's say, 500 different members. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what 500 members tell. And then, of course, it's a kind of a different perception also from the board perspective. And we use that as a kind of improvement process, and creating more value to the chapter members by just having, let's say, a kind of a speaker pool, for example, that we share between the different chapters. So if I want to have a speaker, let's say from the Swiss chapter, we had one at the chapter conference last week. And I know, hey, this is a brilliant speaker, and the topic he's talking about is really interesting. And Mark was talking about the signal gate, so the issue that we had when some kind of confidential information was leaked into a signal conversation by the American administrative people, and he was giving some insights on that, and that was on the point, current, and really insightful. So yeah, this is something you only can have if you have a kind of a chapter communication, and only as a chapter you can basically afford that monitoring and keeping that chapter pool for that speaker pool, for example.
I think it's phenomenal. And I think that one of the things that I think many people in the industry, especially people just starting in the industry, undervalue how important it is to have those different perspectives, to learn from each other, to have that network of professionals that you can consult with. And for me, when I started the chapter, we had other networking events, but we didn't have one for more seasoned professionals, not just CISOs. There was one only for CISOs. There was one for everyone in the industry. There was one for hackers, but I wanted to create a group that would bring different people from different mindsets, from different experiences together, so we can ask each other questions and learn from each other. And I think that the only way we can sort of tackle our adversaries, because they don't play by the same rules that we do, is learn from each other and use the collective brain, let's call it. So crowdsourcing or brain sourcing, or I don't even know how to call it, but asking others for help and getting their perspective.
Swarm intelligence, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's super important.
The point is, additionally, you establish a kind of a trust between the chapter members. We have an NDA that we run for every chapter meeting, so you know that people on or at the chapter or at the chapter meeting, they obey that kind of NDA, and by that you can actually speak up openly, and then you can really explain things, and people get you challenge that. It's like a peer review on the spot, right? It's like a peer review on how do you call it, the on drugs. So this kind of exaggerating. So bam, you get the feedback by 10 or 15 different people, and all of a sudden you know, my gosh, I should have thought about this and that. Oh yeah, I did that. Cool. And sometimes it's just good to say about 50% of all the attendees would have done the same thing. Cool. Okay.
Okay, so I'm okay. Well, I love that. I think you're definitely the first chapter I heard of that actually has a formal NDA. I think it's a wonderful idea. It's a wonderful idea. We sort of always said this is Chatham House rules and you cannot repeat anything that's here. Yeah, but the fact that you formalize it into an NDA is it's a good idea.
We have it more or less just formalized, and because otherwise people would not be allowed to talk. And then of course it's always Chatham House rules that we follow, saying, I heard an industry member of this and that has experienced this and that, and he tackled it with this and that, and blah blah blah. So this is something that we're not saying this was the guy from this bank,
from this company. Yeah, I love that, because I've never encountered it in any public speaking engagement that people actually had to sign NDAs. And I can say from my perspective, there are a lot of things that I cannot share because people are not under NDA. So I absolutely love this idea, and I will challenge you to take it to the next chapter advisory meeting. I'm just saying. I will take it to the next chapter advisory meeting, because I think that is a wonderful idea, and it's such an easy thing to do, actually. Once you create the NDA, everyone who wants to participate in the engagement has to sign an NDA.
Invitation. It's in every invitation. You have to sign it, otherwise you cannot. I mean, of course, it's you now I potentially signed about 100 different NDAs from attending different chapter meetings, etc. But yeah.
But I think it sets the tone, and I think in cybersecurity, a lot of what we do is setting the tone. I mean, I don't think that any cybersecurity professional will say, "Oh, I heard this. This is what they've in malice go and publish something." That's not who we are. But the fact that you signed the NDA, it sort of formalizes it. You cannot talk about it outside this room. You cannot share it.
Specifically when you are a CISSP, if you fail to keep an NDA, then of course you also lose your certification on top of that.
You're in breach of.
This is really. I mean, if it is public, if that is public, that this hospital was broken into, and and of course you can talk about, say, look, this was the hospital here that this guy broke in and did that, whatever. This is okay, yeah. If it is publicly, no.
Yeah, but the how is not no. And sharing that, I think, is very valuable.
Even if the how is published, I mean, you can actually talk about everything that is publicly available, right? So this is part of the NDA. You don't have to keep the disclosure if it is already disclosed. So,
yeah. Well, you've been in this industry for a while, and I'm being nice. Yes. So you've been here for a while, and we had a conversation earlier today. We talked about some of the evolving threats that we see, and how the adversaries are not playing by the same rules. And I want to hear from you about your perspective. How do you see those evolving threats, and how we as an industry learn and grow and deal with them hopefully in real time?
Having seen, let's say, 20, 25 years of cyber or security, information security as such, we see that the technologies develop faster than our protections. So therefore, looking at the new topic like AI and all this artificial I used to call AI automation intelligence, but the point is, it is still that we have to have that speed, the pace. We have to keep it, and we need to change. And by just keeping our basics, it's easier to think of the new things on the road. So one of my biggest concerns still is that we have a lot of those shadow, whatever it is, shadow IT, shadow AI, shadow that. Just think of, would the same be there with shadow finance?
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe, but this is a kind of a rogue environment that you're working in. So yeah, I have some black money on the side. No, you don't have that typically as an organization, so you're not allowed to. Blah, blah. So we have a lot of black and shadow IT around. We don't know all our assets that we have that work with us. And even sometimes we have something that we know we have, but we have no responsible person. So yeah, there's a rack. There are 5 servers in it. Who they belong? I don't know. The last person knowing that died 3 years ago. Okay, cool. Why are they still running? Well, we don't know. We don't dare to cut it off or shut it off. Okay,
Yeah.
different. So yeah, we need to do our basics, and then we're needing to have more speed, more time for speed.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to agree with you because I think that the world is changing, and I think that one thing that I already called it out a few times here on the podcast as well, with shadow IT, people know that they're not supposed to install things on their device. Usually they know, but they don't see shadow AI the same because they don't install anything. They just use something on the web, so they don't think about it as I'm doing something wrong. AI in
They
most
just use
cases,
it on
not
the phone,
everything,
yeah.
on their phone. They think about the efficiency. And I remember sitting in a highly confidential, talking about NDA, in a highly confidential conversation with a law firm. And one of the associates had his AI companion join the conversation. Now, I knew that they weren't actually using AI companion, so I asked him, like, very nicely, "Oh, which AI companion is this? Are you happy with it? Does it send? Do all the lawyers in the company have it? Oh no, it's just what is it, something that you use? Oh wow, maybe I should check it out. Is it free? Great. So basically, you're just telling me that this super confidential conversation with our lawyers is being transcribed to a free AI companion sent to your personal Gmail. Great. But for me, it really got me thinking because, again,
Why?
this lawyer,
Benefit was like
the benefit was
transcription.
fantastic. And yeah, and when we look at tools, for example, I'm using Riverside, and one of the reasons I use Riverside for these recordings is the fact that it transcribes everything we say, no matter what language we speak in. Well, I didn't try every language. Well, I tried Hebrew and English, and it always worked well. And it gives me a recap, and I can use it, and I can edit it, and it's super easy. Now I can do the same with Zoom today, but back in the day, Zoom didn't do like a summary and added items and things like that. And again, it's super, super efficient.
Yeah,
But there
but we
are
don't
risks.
talk about this highly confidential stuff, right?
Exactly. So I think that this is definitely something that we should think about. Those
Sure.
risks that we don't even see in AI, but it's not just AI. And I want to ask you from your perspective, actually as an educator, because you've been creating courses and training people for so many years. What are some of your strategies in getting people into the right mindset of understanding it, not just reading the book? And because, for example, the CISSP is a great example. Even if you have photographic memory and you remember everything that is written in the book, some of the questions you need to sort of use your intelligence, use your mind, change the way you think, because it's not a textbook question, and it's definitely not a textbook answer. So how do you help people get into that mindset?
I'll typically translate those why questions into something that relates to everybody, which is potentially driving a car. So having a CISSP is potentially just knowing about all the rules in traffic. So we drive on the left lane, on the right lane. If there is a traffic light, you have to stop. Blah, blah, blah. So this is basic knowledge. It doesn't mean that you are a better driver if you have it or not. so another good example is Michael Schumacher. You potentially know him. He was
Yes.
a phenomenal Formula One driver, and he started his career at his dad's driving center, right? And he could even drive a car before he was allowed to. So could he drive better than me at that age? Even at that age and me now? For sure, because he learned that. He was that kind of passionate. He did that every second of his life. So regarding that, a driver's license is not necessary for everybody. So even without a driver's license, you are a potentially good driver, right? But if you have a driver's license, you at least proven that you have that knowledge about, hey, we drive on the left lane, the traffic lights, blah blah blah, all the traffic signs are there. Sorry. And then of course it is experience when you relate things that you learn. So the principles of least privilege and need to know and all that, this is something that you can transport into everything. So once you understood that kind of concept, then cybersecurity is more or less just a question of what could possibly go wrong. And then this is something that you inhale and live and put into your DNA, and then you are more or less having that mindset. Be careful, that sometimes leads to paranoia.
We're in the business of being paranoid. I mean, we're being paid to be paranoid, but there are levels
All
of
right.
paranoia. There
Okay.
are levels. So you know what but you did mention something about passion when you talked about Michael Schumacher, and I want to talk about exactly about that because we know that one of the biggest challenges in cybersecurity that so many professionals are talking about is burnout.
Hmm.
And I had so many conversations with people, and on the other hand, I talk to people like you, and you do so much. You have your own company, you consult, you have employees, you run courses, you run the chapter, you work a lot. I know you work a lot. I know how much time we spent together. I know how much you spent working in this industry. How do you
Okay.
avoid burnout? How do you stay passionate?
I have the luck that since about 25 years, I get paid for my hobby. So getting to know the things, how it works, and learn new things was always a kind of a hobby for me. So I still have, let's say, five or maybe 10-ish Raspberry Pis in my lab that I used to play with. And if I read something about, oh, this is something we can do, and this is always a kind, yeah, curiosity was one of the drivers that brought me into cybersecurity, because I wanted to understand why things work and why things sometimes not work, right? And by that it is, yeah, it is as, yeah, curiosity. It was always nice to know things, how things work. So that was the passion. And this is exactly the point. When you have a lot of things to do but you don't have to, you don't feel the stress. So there are two things of stress. So one is the distress, one is the eustress. And the distress is really when you need to do that. Hey, mate, we have to do this right now. Go and do. This is distress. This makes our body work hard and suffer sometimes. So when you have this burnout, this is really when you have too much and you don't enjoy. And also I had the luck to have already this kind of new work environment when I was a father of little kids, that I can stop working on that specific topic and go to the pool, to the playground, play with them until they finished and were sleeping already, and then I continued developing concepts, reviewing whatever audit reports, etc. So this is something I had the luck in my position to really do that. So therefore, I was always that kind of self-determined, in the sense like I stop working now and I continue working there. And I always had the luck to work when and wherever I wanted. So maybe
I
that is
think
something we should really elaborate a bit.
so. I want to elaborate on that, but I want to mention something. You said luck, and you said luck. I didn't count, but I think you said I was lucky to find something that I love. I was lucky to design. No, you were not lucky. You were intentional. You looked at what you love doing and you
Yeah.
built your life. You may have not been intentional. Oh, this is how I want to live my life in 15 years. That's what I'll do today. But you were intentional.
No.
When your kids, it's super easy, especially when you have young kids, and those are usually the years where you grow your career. It's super easy the boss wants you to work 14-hour days. Sure, I'll work 14 hours days. On the other hand, you were intentional. So I don't think you were lucky. I think you were intentional.
Okay.
So how did you design your life in a way that, because we know that cybersecurity never sleeps and always there's an incident at Friday at 4 p.m. when you're just about to go for the weekend. It's always on a Friday afternoon.
This is when the brown stuff hits the fan. I know.
Exactly. So how did you design your life in a way that allowed you to keep that work-life balance that you just described?
I wanted to say I'm lucky to have a wife in my life that actually is a psychologist. So, nevertheless, I also had during my study, I was studying also psychology. So maybe I have a little bit more understanding on how I feel, what I need to relax, what I need to calm down. On the other side, I always had the joy of working a lot. So it could happen that you get an email from me at 2 o'clock in the night. I never expected my people, my colleagues, and to respond at that same time. But it was just because I was able to work in different time zones and work wherever I be. So yes, I even stood up at 4 o'clock in the morning in a U.S. hotel and talked to someone in Europe because I wanted and I can. And then of course this is something, or as I said, the self-deterministic. So if you are not forced to do that, it is not a problem. It doesn't stress you because you think, hey, I want to talk to May, and I stand up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'll do that because it's important to me. And then it's like you have that kind of relief or that satisfaction to say, hey, this is exactly how I want to. And yeah, maybe it was luck. Maybe it was the opportunity that I took, saying, now I can work here. I can do this, right? So, yeah, I even had the one of the first times to reduce my work hours because I was able to do trainings online back, whatever it was, 1996, 1998, something like that, because then we already had this established. So I was responsible for a company that runs the International Atomic Energy Association or Agency, IAEA, and then we already had that, right? Because they were already using VPN, and I explained them how to use that. So yeah, that was
I
cool.
love that. I love that. And I love the fact that you still call it luck. I still say it is
I took the
luck,
opportunity.
but
Let's put it like that.
it's
I saw an
opportunities,
opportunity.
but it's also the fact that you were very aware of the things that make you happy and things that don't make you happy. And you said, for example, and I'm very much the same, and we were in the same conversations at 4 a.m. and last night I was so tired and we had a meeting, I think it was 11:30 p.m. and I was tired. But as soon as the meeting started, I was so excited. And sometimes I wake for a meeting at 2 a.m. or at 5 a.m. I prefer staying up till 2 or 3 a.m. than waking up at 5. I'm not a morning person. I'm very much a night owl. But that is my choice. So I actually block out my afternoons. My afternoons are blocked from 4 to 7. They're always blocked. So I will have time for the kids and have time for my husband and have time for myself.
This is what I meant with the self-deterministic thing, right? So this is really making sure that you decide. It's your choice. Yeah.
Exactly.
And when you get up at 2 o'clock, fine.
Yeah. And for example, these conversations, I could take it as something stressful because I was traveling so much in the last few weeks. I have a pool of a few chapters that I can upload when I'm absent. But because I was traveling, I'm almost ran out. So I could say, oh no, I have to record a few episodes this week and I'm moving next week and it's so stressful. No, I'm having conversations with people I love and enjoy talking to and learn from. So that's not a burden. That is a choice. And I can decide not to do it,
Yeah.
and I can decide I want to do it. So it's definitely a choice, and I think that
This
choosing
autonomy is really, really important to
Yeah.
avoid stress. Absolutely.
I agree. Stress, and I think that stress is probably the
And
biggest
also
leader
also
to burnout.
the thinking of, hey, there's always another way doing it, and if I don't like it like this, so there's a nice saying. So even if there is a door closing, a new window opens up. So knowing that Windows is there, and dual faced or dual set word. So there are new windows opening, right? So
I agree. I think that
even
is
if you use Apple, right?
no. So you know what, towards the end, I want to ask you. This industry changes so much. So, what excites you about the future of cybersecurity? How do you see it change or evolve in the next 10 years?
I started working, as I said, 25 years ago, and I never did the same thing for more than, let's say, a year, maybe 2 years. So it was really evolving dramatically. So when I started, it was networking, then it was application, then it is people. Now it is risk management in financial transactions, etc. So this is a huge area that you can work with. So whatever interests you. So developing new database applications, making sure you have the right network setup, doing all the microsegmentation thing. This is really, really important, and you can work on every level that you want to have and every topic that excites you. So 5 years ago, nobody spoke about AI. Now AI is there, right? It's here. It's not something that it's like cloud. It's here to stay. And of course, you have to play around with that. And of course, I don't talk play around. I say research, which makes it more professional and more sounded vivid, right? In that regard, I love that. And as I mentioned, I always was curious and found new things interesting. That is something that is never ever the same.
True. Rainer, I want to thank you, but before I let you go, we always have a pop quiz with very short questions, very short answers. Anything that comes to mind, there are no wrong or right answers.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Cool.
You had a sip
Yes,
of coffee.
I am.
Are you ready?
Yes,
cool.
I am.
Okay, so let's start with an easy one. If you could learn one new skill today, what would it be?
Playing piano.
Playing piano? Well, you can. But that's lovely. Okay. What is your favorite memory from your career so far?
Talking to a board member that just realized that security is quite important when his personal mobile phone got broken in.
Oh, nice.
That was quite a memory.
Did it change the way he perceived cybersecurity in the industry?
Absolutely, yes.
Imagine. I love that. Fantastic. If you hadn't chosen a career in tech, what would you be doing today?
We're potentially running a fitness center.
Fitness center. Okay, cool.
I'm a certified trainer for that, just as an add-on.
I didn't know that. That's nice. Okay. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Use your connections more.
Use your connections more.
Use your network.
Nice. You know what? So I will ask you the next one. What's the best piece of advice you can give someone aspiring to become a cybersecurity leader?
Start. Get to certain chapter meetings. Learn people. Talk to people, and finally, just start. If you don't know something, ask people. That's my advice. Just start.
Just start and ask questions. I think it goes back to what you said in the beginning. Stay curious.
Yes, absolutely.
Stay curious. Rainer, thank you so much for
Pleasure was on my
giving
side.
your time today and joining me. And I think people listening, there's so many things you can take from this conversation, from how to avoid burnout, create the life you wanted, do what you love, stay passionate, take opportunities. Absolutely a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope to see you all here next time on CyberMAYnia.